In this video, we're going to continue where we left off, and we're going to complete our look at building and using a custom tag library. So now we have the tag library definition file in place, and we have all the code in place for our tag library definition execution when those tags are invoked. And finally, we just need to get those set up and working on our pages. So once again, we're looking at World Manager Custom Tag Library.war. Go ahead and make sure that's loaded if you haven't already. Once we're in there, we're going to be paying special attention to the List Cities page and the navbar page. Both of those are going to invoke tags that we created. We have our city iteration tag, which again lives in the URI World Manager tags and has the name City Iterator. So let's look at List Cities. When we pull up this page, what we can see is we have our page information just like we had before. And now we've added one more tag information. So we still have our crazy header tag file. That's still in place. And you can see we can just continually add more tag library prefixes. So here we have WM as our prefix, and our URI is World Manager tags. Once again, this must specifically match this URI in our page in order for this to work. Now, once we have that set up, we should be able to reference our tag immediately, and it should have IntelliSense and know there are our two tags, City Iterator and Navigator. And so I didn't use any documentation on those when I created them. If I had, it should show up here and give me a little bit better information about what it's looking for. But you can see it does require the city list attribute, so it's in place. So we can already see our tag is there. Now, because we used the scriptless tag, we can actually have a body, so we can actually put stuff in this part here. Whereas if we had used a bodiless, we would have a self-enclosed tag most likely. Well, everything is going to be pretty much the same on our page, other than now instead of using C for each, we're actually going to use our WM City Iterator. Down here, when we've pulled in our information and we put it into session scope city data, that'll be very important because that's what we're going to use to actually pass into our own tag. And so here we can see everything looks the same. I took the iteration count off that we had on there before because we won't be having that with our for each iteration like we did the last time. And here we can see we've created the tag WM City Iterator with a city list of that session scope city data. And then inside of there, we can put whatever we want as long as it doesn't contain scripting, since we said scriptless. So here we're going to continue to add in more HTML code, and this will create a table row for every iteration, which is really nice. So we don't have a for each, we have a for each that we don't see. And so it's handled in our code where it's basically going to print out over and over again, depending on how many cities are in the list. And then we reference with the city variable. Remember, the city variable came out of the code itself. And when we made that right here in our city iterator do tag, that's what's coming back to the page as the attribute. So here again, we have to reference it directly there, and we can use the expression to do that. Before, we had named this city data, and if we tried to use that again, leaving it the way that it was previous to using our own tag, we would have an error because that variable doesn't match what we passed in our code. So this is very critical. So there's the city iterator, so that simply leaves the navigation iterator. Well, when we create our navigation iterator, it's going to be very similar. All we need is our tag library prefix. And here, instead of having a bunch of hrefs, we're going to have one with the link and text coming off the nav details object. So again, we're iterating on our WM Navigator, which then essentially calls this do tag, which creates our navigation links, and iterates and passes out each one as a nav details object to the page. That page then is able to easily grab navdetails.link and navdetails.text and display that information right there into our navigation bar. So let's go ahead and run this now that we've seen everything come into play. And again, in order to do this, we have to have our World Manager tags TLD library file in place underneath the web INF. We have our Navigator and City Iterator code, and we have our implementation of using the tags on the page. So let's go ahead and run and list out the cities here using our tag. And as we see, it will actually just make us log in, and then we have to go ahead and see our cities. Once again, everything is working. Now it's using our custom tag to do that iteration. And that's all there is to using a custom tag. And you can see each left-hand sidebar is created here using one of our other tags. So everything is very nicely handled and ready to go.